Another fun way to make your pattern designs look a little more interesting and visually engaging is to add like a subtle kind of grungy organic texture either to the background of your design or over the tops of, or the top of your motifs, which can sometimes give like a subtle kind of vintagey or weathered effect, which can be kind of fun, or even within certain motifs in your pattern, just kind of depending on what kind of look you're after. So let me show you what I mean. One of my favorite ways is, I'm going to use this one here. There are lots of different grunge textures that you can find online, many available for free download. You can also find them easily for purchase at places like Creative Market. If you just do a simple Google search like grunge texture for Illustrator or grunge texture for Photoshop, that kind of thing. So I'm going to just drag this JPEG over to Illustrator, and then what you're going to want to do is turn this into a vector. So right now this is just a JPEG and I can't change any of the colors or edit this in any way. So I'm going to image trace this, which will turn it into a vector. And again, if you don't know what this means, I go over this in detail in Pattern Camp Level 1, so check that out if you need to. So I'm going to go for sketched art. Seems to be the option that I find I like the best for image tracing. And then expand, and there we go. So now you can see when I overlap it, that white background is gone. I can also click on any color and it'll change the color of my kind of splattery grungy shape. So let's go ahead and change it to that kind of darker shadowy gray, and I'm just going to cut this, and it looks like I need to lock that again, of course, and then select everything, all of those motifs, and then we'll paste it in back. So now I know that it's behind all of my motifs. And what I would do from here is simply hold down my Option key and click and hold and drag it and just start kind of repeating that texture. And you can rotate it, you can reflect it, you can make it horizontal instead. Another thing that you can do is drag a copy out here and just select portions of it to copy, and I would use my white arrow tool for that, and you can simply select portion of it and move it away, and then it's doing some kind of funny line things because I only selected part of it. So you can always use your white arrow tool to just delete portions of whatever you're trying to select, and then it looks like that's all grouped together. So let me ungroup it, and now you can see it's all separate. So I'll just group that one little piece back together, and then I can use that in my design, and, you know, just in case I didn't want to use the whole motif, because that might look a little bit too obvious, or you know, just not repeat quite the way that I want it to. So like for example, that's looking like a little bit too much. I'm just going to delete that one and maybe just use this one again. You can just overlap it really kind of in whatever fashion you want. Increase the size, rotate it, what have you. Okay, let's see. And then again, it'll just be important to remember that anything that's overlapping on the left will need to overlap on the right as well. Delete that, and let's just move this. We'll group it, Command G, so it's all stuck together. Anyway, anything that's overlapping on the left will need to overlap on the right. Anything that's overlapping on the top will need to overlap on the bottom. So I'll just select all this grungy stuff on the left, move it over to the right 8, vertical 0, and copy. So the nice thing about these grungy textures is that it's so organic and random that that the repeat won't be, it shouldn't be very obvious when you're copying and pasting it up and over to the left and the right. And if you overlap pieces that you have placed in various places, for lack of a better way of describing that, the overlap shouldn't be noticeable at all. So let's move this up. I just selected everything that's on the bottom. I want to move it up to the top. So moving up is a negative number, -8. Okay, and then this one needs to be copied down, so that's a +8. And then I made this a little confusing for myself because I copied things over, or I placed things on both sides and the top and the bottom. So I think this will be everything. So moving something from the right to the left is a negative number, -8, vertical 0, and copy. Okay, so that, I think we've got everything there. So you can see that that added yet another type of dimension. So let's check it out and see how that looks. My blank magic square is still there. So we'll just click, hold, and drag. Everything's selected. And test it out. And there we go. And again, here's our last one with our hexagons. So you can see it's yet another way to make our pattern feel a little bit different. Okay, so I'm going to delete that, and then let me show you. There's a quick way. If I just select all of these, sometimes you can go to select, same, fill color. And so it just selected all of those for me. I was afraid it might select the leaves as well that are that same color, but it didn't for whatever reason. So I'm going to group all of those together and then bring them all to the front. So they're now sitting on top of my designs. And I'm going to change that color. So let's change it first to the background color and see how that looks. So you can see how that kind of makes things feel, you know, a little vintagey in a way. Some of these splattery, grungy things are a little bit intense, but again, since this is repeating properly, you can also just move this around to place all this grunge kind of in different spots. So that could be kind of interesting. And let's see. Okay, so let's see how that looks when it's repeated. So we'll select everything, click, hold, and drag. We'll make that big square again. Okay, so here's the one that we made before with the grungy texture in the background. Here's the new one. So you can see it just, you know, adds yet another, it's just another way of making your pattern feel like there's a little bit of something more going on.